This is Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon, Book 3. And wow, once again, Kodansha is really loving we American readers because they did a fabulous job redoing this cover. The Japanese cover has Sailor Mars with light purple hair, and the colors look really faded. I have no idea why this is. This is actually how I bought the book. This has not been in the sun. Whereas the American release, everything is crisp and clear, and her black, purple, and light purple hair is intact. And we have a lot of beautiful detail. Now I want to point something out that I should have pointed out in the Mercury review, and I'm sorry I didn't do this. You note that the costume is different. Well, for those of you who haven't seen the Stars manga, this is actually Sailor Mars' final Senshi form. Consider this like an eternal Sailor Mars version. Mercury was pictured on the cover with the same outfit, as you can see right there. So my apologies for not bringing this up sooner. Now, like I said in the Mercury review, when you buy a Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon book, you're not really getting one book, you're getting two. Or at least 1.5 in this case. And that's about what happened this time. If you saw my earlier reviews, then you already know the story, so let's just move on. The American release, we have a bright yellow logo this time, whereas the Japanese has bright red writing, which closer matches Sailor Mars. And on the back, the Japanese version of Chibi Sailor Mars has very pale skin, very close to what she has in the anime. Whereas the American release, they added a lot more shading, a lot more texture, and a darker tone. And again, get used to this rating, because it's what we strived for. We're getting this uncensored, and that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And just like the other Japanese books, this book too has a jacket. This time we have a pale red display, and our jacket has Chibi Sailor Mars. The artwork for the front page, again, is a little bit washed out. I hope this comes up okay in the camera, but it is really washed out. I have no idea what they were doing. Whereas when Kodansha released the American book, it's a little bit better, not as pale. Now this is some fantastic artwork. We actually get the first page of the next issue right here in bright, beautiful color, and some gorgeous detail work here. And we also get a little bonus with Chibi-usa. And of course, if you're a Sailor Moon buff, you might be wondering, well, why is Chibi-usa here when this is a Queen Beryl story? Well, Chibi-usa actually debuts in this book after Beryl is dead. I just like this picture because her hair is more straight here, a lot more like her mother. I really like that. The American version did a very faithful job in keeping this, and we have some better texture and tone with Chibi-usa. This was actually translated really well. This is where the translations really pick up. If you had some issues reading the first book, don't worry, because this one is done quite well. We also open up with this excellent picture that I absolutely love. It's completely translated. It's a little drawing of a lot of characters and side characters in Sailor Moon, and this is really what got me. That's Rei's grandfather in the manga. Far cry from the creepy little bald dude we see in the anime, isn't he? Here we see some really cute pictures of the 4 generals. Usagi's family. This is one of the last times you're going to see a Kyuko with purple hair, unless you watch the anime. This was done quite well. I mean, we even have a cute little picture there of the happy couple, or soon-to-be happy couple. Spoiler! And the first page is again on glossy paper. Not so with book 2, but we go back to that in book 3, which, that's fine. Now you might be noticing that again I have some bookmarks here. Hi, Kawasagi-chan. Well, that's because a few changes were made between the original Japanese manga and the Japanese reprint manga, and I'd like to show you with the Tokyopop books. This is what the original version of the manga looked like. As you can see, Sailor Moon is very angularly drawn. She has a much longer nose, and it carries over with the other side of the page. Whereas in the reprint, and this goes for the Japanese as well, this is not a Tokyopop thing, we have a different Sailor Moon. We have more energy shown around the crystal and around Sailor Moon herself. We have more detail. We have curls, just like Kurosagi. Her nose is shorter, face is slightly less angular, and there's more detail work done in her jewelry. Another thing of note that I'm surprised the Japanese version didn't carry over are these little background notes. If you buy the Tokyopop books, there are some background notes written by Naoko herself. Some of this has been retranslated to make it look like an interview with Mix, which of course she never had any interviews with Mix, or with anybody at Tokyopop. But this is actually some cute notes here. I mean, we have some notes back here on things that were going on during the production of the anime, things her editor used to bring her. Little side drawings like this that she drew just for the hell of it. And it's a shame that even in the Japanese reprints, we didn't get these either. Of course, we also got bombarded with Mix/Chicks Comics/Tokyopop books. And here we see the prototype versions for the novels I reviewed in another video. But, of course, this couldn't have been helped. We also have an ad for the role-playing game. Does anybody have this? I've always wanted to play it. I love role-playing. With the original manga, we not only have artwork change, we have a page change. In the original books, and you see this in the Tokyopop version, we have the first engraving of Sailor Moon performing her final attack against Queen Metalia. And here you can see that Tokyopop tried keeping this close to the anime. Her line is, "On behalf of the moon, you're punished." Whereas in the reprint book, the page is slightly cleaned up. The line is, "I, Sailor Moon, now punish you in the name of the moon." Because remember, she's still awakening as a princess here. And then we have just a page, just a few pages into this, we've got this shot of Sailor Moon activating the crystal on the wand. Whereas in the reprint, that next page is right next to it, and it's been completely redrawn by Naoko. Again, we have the beautiful wispy curls that we will later see on Kurosagi. We have more detail work in the wand, and her eyes have been finished. This is really interesting. You do see this a lot when you compare the manga. You'll see a lot of panels that had more details added in later. Now, for those of you who use Photoshop or GIMP or programs like that, you're about to be in for a real treat. Because guess what? The masters use those programs too. This is the original manga, as translated by Tokyopop. You can see Sailor Moon is drawn in a more juvenile style here. And this is how she originally kills Queen Metalia. That's pretty gruesome, right? Well, here's how it looks in the reprint manga. Again, we have the pages flipped. She's using more regal speak because she's channeling herself as Princess Serenity. And you can see that in the drawing. Be rendered to dust. That's such a badass line. And here's how digitally Queen Metalia's death was edited. When you get a little later in the books, you'll see more digital editing like this, and it's actually a good effect. It's not cheaply done at all. There's also more screen toning in, which is not as easy as it sounds, and makes for an excellent effect. As mentioned, this is the same book that Chibi-usa debuts in, and this is right after the incident with Metalia, and I do mean right after. And this is actually a panel I've referenced several times on Moon Sisters. Yes, Chibi-usa actually did pull a gun on her mother. Now, if you watch the anime, the gun turns out to be a little toy. It just shoots a little dart. Whereas in the manga, instead of shooting darts, it shoots flowers. But of course, her mother is no less scared. Of course, you're not supposed to know that, that's her mother and father right there, but you'll get to that. Another thing that's different between the anime and manga is that a lot of the villains are going to die much earlier. By the time you're finished with book number 4, you won't have the Black Moon sisters anymore. They're all done. And here again we actually have another panel I was talking about. The reprint manga, we have Jupiter performing Sparkling Wide Pressure, although it's incorrectly titled Sparkling Wide Pressure. Simple translation error, anybody can make that mistake. And this is beautifully drawn. You'll see this in the Japanese reprint too. Absolutely beautiful. Whereas in the original version, the attack Sparkling Wide Pressure looked a lot more like this. You see that her ball is missing, and it's drawn like this. So keep your eyes open for different drawing changes if you do happen to have the Tokyo Pop version. Once again, we have some well-done translation notes, and I actually got a good lesson here. I didn't realize some of the stuff that was going on here. It even has a definition of chibi and why she and her sister have that nickname. You must have this book to understand. Now, this book ends with a preview translated perfectly of book number 4, along with an ad for all 3 of the books that have come out to this point, and our little spoiler page in the back. Whereas the Japanese version, again, we have another comic that Naoko drew, this time about each of the Sailor Senshi, and about different ideas that she had for each of them. There's even a panel here with Makoto smoking. If you feel like you're missing out, the link for these translations is right under this video, along with a link for buying these books legally, because I do recommend this. If you like Chibi-usa, if you want to know how Queen Beryl and Queen Metalia really died, you're going to need this book.